I go before Matt
Mr.
Smith?
Smart here,
please?
you can start now.
Can I go before Mr. Smith? Hey, Matt, rock, paper, scissors. Mine's shorter. Oh, yeah, that was it's my kicker. Social distance.
Oh, no. I get back to you. I don't think I need to read it if we don't have anybody remote.
You may. Yes, sir.
Chairman could add this to me. It has to do with water access.
Oh, wow, okay. Oh, yeah, I know he was big involved in that. Great, okay, thank you, thank you. Hold on one second, Ty, let me check with Glenn to make sure. Because Bill Lee is supposed to be. Okay, Ty, you do not have to do it, because it's you guys. I don't see Steve or Glenn on there yet. Steve Sorensen could possibly be on there too, Glenn.
We're gonna get this stuff going.
Okay, Steve is saying that he's trying to connect, but can't connect. I'll tell you what, why don't you just go ahead and do that 3-6? That way we're covered legally if Steve does,
Lenny, you ready for it? You just let me know.
I'll wait and see if anybody else is gonna come in.
Hey, Bob.
Good to see you.
Oh, here's the state connection. You want to just say pursuant to. And it's in your bylaws, it's on
It's 3-6.
I'll find it when the meeting's over.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just go ahead and read that time, just in case.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the February 2021 meeting of the Lancaster County Planning Commission. Thank everyone for this commission that ventured out on this rainy, cold night. Did everyone receive their packets in time to review them from last month's meeting? Any changes noted? Any updates? I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Barnes, we've got a public presentation lined up first from Mr. Jimmy Carter on the Tri-Way Trail.
I'll get it.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Carter is here.
Hang on one second. You got me punched in. I apologize. In the new COVID world. Before we begin the meeting, according to our new bylaws, 3-6 and the Virginia State Code 2.2-3708.2, we will open this meeting up to members that are not present to allow them to participate virtually. Okay? We'll open that up now. Okay, sorry, Brian.
That's okay. And yeah, Steve Sorensen he's trying to connect. He may be able to get, I told him he might have to stand up and hold his phone up and get connected, but if he
He's a
does, then,
Moratico. He's gonna have,
yeah, then you're covered. Yeah, as you guys are aware, Mr. Carter's been working on a Tri-Way Trail. I've told you a little bit about it, but I thought tonight, before you guys get busier in the next couple meetings with budget items and other things, that Mr. Carter might do a good job of giving us an update on what his efforts are and how that might jive with the comprehensive plan update. Anyway,
Good. Can I take this off for presentation?
Yes, sir.
I've had both shots, so.
yeah, if you, Jimmy, we found with, especially with Zoom, if you have your mask off when you're speaking, people can hear you online. If you try to speak through the mask, it's very,
Right,
very
good.
difficult.
All right, let's see. So let's see, I'm gonna wear two hats tonight. I'm gonna be representing the Triway Trail, but I'm also gonna be representing the Business Advisory Committee when we actually get into the substance of looking at the Chapter 5. So let's see, thank you, Glenn. So Glenn's gonna walk me through this presentation. I assume you all have seen it on your screens, is that right?
Yes.
Good. All right, so before I get into the actual trail, I want to tee it up with a couple of comments about the economy. So Glenn, we can go ahead and advance. So, all right, we can go to the next one. Yeah, we can go to the next one, Glenn, thanks. So we can't talk about Lancaster County's economy without talking about the Tides Inn. And so, you know, when the Tides Inn opened in 1947, it totally changed the trajectory of this county. It introduced this community to the charms, to its prosperous guests. This seeded the growth of a sophisticated array of shops, restaurants, and services, making this area the East Hamptons of Virginia. Go ahead, Glenn. So, you know, and so the elderly people moving and retiring to this county, if we look over here on the right, we see that Virginia's elderly population is really concentrated in this region. The only sort of, it's all down here around the Chesapeake Bay where we had the quality of life that people wanted to retire to. We know we've been suffering with younger people moving out of the area, looking for jobs elsewhere, being replaced by retirees. Our economy it relies on that. You know, sort of the only outlier is out in Highland County. But 4 of the 5 most elderly communities in the state reside right here. On this left chart, I think it's interesting to see, this is from a 2017 report by the Pew Research Institute. And it talked about the most elderly counties in America. You'll see on this chart that there's Lancaster County. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're tied with Citrus County above us as being the 5th most elderly county in America. And Northumberland's there at number 8. So I looked at the counties from above Northumberland going up. The only other 2 contiguous counties in America on that list were Sumter County and Citrus County in Florida, but they both had populations of over 100,000. So what that says to me is that Lancaster County and Northumberland County are the 2 most elderly rural contiguous counties in America. So I think we can say with some confidence that Lancaster County sits at the epicenter of elderly in America. All right, Glenn, we can go to the next one. So, you know, when we look at the economy that we're looking at, you know, we know that we're surrounded by these 3 metropolitan areas, DC, Richmond, and Hampton Roads. All right, Glenn. And, you know, we know that DC is a perennial powerhouse. You know, 4 of the richest counties in America are in the DC umbrella, Loudoun, Howard, Fairfax, and Arlington. And with Amazon coming on stream, that's only making that market stronger and stronger. That new picture over there to the right is Amazon's new picture that they put out last week, I think, of their new corporate headquarters. They're sparing no money for quality of life. That's an exterior hiking trail on the outside of their building. I mean, they're appealing to this young workforce that we'll talk more about in a minute. All right, Glenn, we can go to the next one. So this community has a lot going on right now. I'm 70 years old now, and I've been working in this community since I was 19. And I'm more enthusiastic about what's going on right now than any time in my life. And I just want to jump through just real quickly what I think are a couple of high-level things that we need to be aware of. The Tides Inn, the Pattersons, the hospital, and the trail. So Glenn, we can go to the next one. So the Tides End's getting ready. I think that you've all heard to do a major redo. And this is important to this community. If you take communities where the Greenbrier or the Homestead or Middleburg, where you get these high-end resorts, it casts a whole cachet on the community that really creates a sense of place. And people say, you know, it just gives us a presence in the marketplace that's a real high-end image. All right, Glenn, next one. So over the next few years, the Tides End's redoing what they call Tides End 2.0, which is their renovation plan. They'll be doing a world-class spa, top-tier rooms, exceptional food and water experiences. And they're throwing a lot of money down there. I mean, they announced the other day they're doing a boardwalk around their waterfront at great expense. I mean, they are doing things, they're spending a lot of money to really tee themselves up to be a really premier location. There's no skimpy going on down there. David Jones was in there last year working hard, I think, you know, doing over their dining room facilities, renovating their rooms. They're gonna be tearing things down. There's gonna be a lot of action down there. So this is really, really great for this community. All right, Glenn, next one. The Pattersons. We all are aware of Terry and Julian Patterson. I have friends that come up to me all the time. They know that I'm friends with them. And they say, you know, what are the Pattersons thinking? You know, and I have to explain to them. I say, what the Pattersons are thinking are that they feel that they're blessed, that they've had a very successful business life, and they feel morally responsible to do something with their wealth to help this community. They have adopted this community, luckily, and so they're doing what I term social investing. Rather than just give their money away, they're trying to figure out what can we do with our money and add business knowledge on top of it to help this economy. What they realize is if they can make this a more desirable place to move to, that it will raise property values and that will allow the county to pay for easier time paying for new schools because we'll get our increase. We're so tax-based on real estate that if we can get property values up, that will help that. If we can get this place more desirable, then hopefully people moving in, hopefully we can, you know, this whole thing of a work from home environment now, we think that if we can get people here, improve the value proposition that people want to move here, which they already have. I mean, as I say, we're the East Hamptons of Eastern Virginia. Nowhere else in Eastern Virginia between these three major markets is there the quality of life that we're offering. We are the quality of life leaders, unquestionable in the marketplace. And what the Pattersons are doing is they're adding on. Next one, Glenn. You know, their big investment right now is a $20 million Campus Entertainment Center. I think we all feel sorry about the timing. Who could have foreseen when they were getting ready to open that COVID will have come in? Obviously, the Pattersons would be the first to tell you that they're okay financially. What they're worrying about are others that don't have their financial strength to hold on. But it is an amazing what the Pattersons have done. The consultants that I've seen when they talk about this entertainment center, is they say this is the most advanced entertainment center of its type in America. This is an amazing piece of infrastructure for this community. Next slide. The hospital. We're on the verge of announcing a $15 million, well, I say 15 million, we'll see what the new number is with materials and everything going up, but we'll have those prices in the next 2 weeks. We're gonna redo the hospital. We're gonna change the front of the hospital. I think those of you who know the hospital is, when you come into the existing lobby, the cafeteria is on the left and the emergency room sort of sitting right behind that you enter from the side in the back. We never liked that flow. We need a new emergency room. We need more privacy. We're using the curtains and things that are in there. The old. It's not modern. It's not meeting the quality perception that we want. So we're going to build a new cafeteria to the right of the lobby. Put a new lobby in. That glass that you see to the right will be the new cafeteria, cafe, and then the emergency room will be over to the left. What we're going to do is, first, we're going to do it in 3 steps. We're going to build the lobby and the cafeteria. Then we're going to move the cafeteria over. That will open up the space where the cafeteria is to redo the emergency room. And then we'll move the emergency room forward into that space. So over the next 2 years, we'll have that completed. And the hospital is important in our economy because people don't want to move to rural America unless they've got good health. It's incumbent. And so I think, you know, I was on the negotiating team. BH and I and Jim Holmes were the negotiating team that went out and looked to sell the hospital. I just want to say how pleased I am. When we look at the metrics of the financial condition that the hospital was in prior to the sale, we were worried about even keeping the hospital open. Bon Secours has been a terrific partner. We still have full employment. We've got full services. They've invested over $12 million to date in infrastructure. And we're going to raise this $15 million from the community. A substantial part of it's already been raised. And we're going to build this, match them. Just because we sold the hospital, it didn't take away the community responsibilities that was inherent in the sale. And so anyway, this is going to be great. The hospital will be teed up after this. All right, Glenn, next slide. So when we look tactically at Virginia, you know, here we are located, we're ideally located in the East Coast. And I tell you, with the hurricanes and stuff hitting the Gulf Coast, fires on the West Coast, earthquakes, you name it, I think we're sitting in a pretty good position. So I think that bodes well for our economy in a micro manner. Glenn, we can go to the next slide. What I'd like to talk about, when we talk about our retirees here, there's a new market forces at play. These are the cities where millennials are moving to, and you can see that the East Coast continuum is strong, and it's wrapping right down around us. I mean, those dots that you see put us right in the middle of this new millennial growth, this new market forces. You know, the baby boomers have aged out. It's the millennials now where the action is. They're the ones that the Amazons of the world and others are chasing. Next slide. So what's interesting is when we look at the Washington market, which we know is perennially strong, as we talked about, this is from a report that Time Magazine put out in 2017. May have changed a little bit, but the facts are still pretty clear. Time Magazine said in 2017 that Norfolk and Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area was the #1 fastest millennials growth area in America, and Richmond was #2. You know, we always hear about Memphis and Austin and all those, but the truth of the matter is that we're sitting right here. If you had to find a rural market in America that was the best located between ideally growth markets, Gretzky always said, you got to play where the puck's going. Well, I'm telling you that I think we are where the puck's going. We're sitting here between these three major millennial markets, and I think that that's going to mean something to us. So when we talk about our economy and where we're headed, we'll get into this in a minute when we talk about the trail, I think we have to think about these new market forces. When I helped develop Innsbrook, a 1,000-acre office park in Richmond in the 80s, no one wanted to be downtown. There hadn't been a new building built in a suburban office park in Richmond in 10 years. No one wants to be in the suburbs now. Everybody wants to be downtown. The millennials have reshaped the market. They want to live, work, and play in a vertical environment. So the question is, how can Lancaster County appeal to these new market forces to help grow the economy we need? Next one, Glenn. So we know that we're sitting here with these three towns. When you look at the other areas in Eastern Virginia, the other towns are places like Reedville, Warsaw, Tappahannock, Urbana, Deltaville. None of those towns or areas have the mojo that these three towns have. Next slide, Glenn. You know, we've got all these sort of things going on here. The drifts and the river mark and the Hope and Glory vines, you know, boom, the Kilmarnock Inn, what the Tides Inn's doing. I mean, we have so much stuff going here. And the reason that stuff is all right here and not in these other counties goes back to the Tides Inn. When you went to open a restaurant or a shop or service, you want to go where the money is. And so because we had that money, we got a disproportionate share of the growth of the high quality infrastructure. I like to say that little quote up there. I give an economic development speech entitled, "We're in the country, but we're not in the sticks." I say that Lancaster County is different than the rural counties surrounding us. We just got a much more sophisticated built-out set of infrastructure that really gives us an advantage in the marketplace. Next one. You know, just visuals of some of this stuff we've got. You know, I love the owners of Adrift that they moved back here. I mean, we've got a lot of great stories. The donut shops, we can go on and on and on. It's terrific what's going on here. Next one. You know, Coastal Living named Irvington as one of the 10 best places in the United States to move to in 2020. Next one. People magazine looked at, said that Miramar was the most popular restaurant in the state of Virginia. Next one. Travel and Leisure said just this a few months ago, said that the Northern Neck was the #1 travel place in America. Next one. We're getting a lot of mojo, we're getting a lot of attention, and it's because of these other fundamental things that we're talking about. Thanks to Mr. Brent, I looked at the sales in Lancaster County. You know, we all know that the economy's picked up. So what does that mean? Real estate's sort of the driving force in this community. So in 2018 and 2019, we had, you can see what happened. We had around 200 sales, about $75 million a year in sales. So I'm calling that the pre-COVID baseline. In 2020, we jumped from an average of 200 sales to 324 sales. We jumped from 75 million in Lancaster residential sales to 137 million. Next slide. So this dramatic increase, when I looked, we didn't have that big increase. And Ty, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't see this jump in the first quarter of 20 because COVID hadn't kicked in. It really kicked in the second quarter going forward. And these numbers don't talk about what was in the pipeline that was getting ready to close, that was sold in 20, but didn't close into 21. I believe when you look at these numbers, that our rate of growth in the last 3 quarters of 20 were 100% over baseline. It's phenomenal what's going on. The realtors will tell you that they're running out of inventory, that this could be one of the hottest spurts we've ever had. Does it have legs? I don't know. Is it good? It's good. And I think that what's going to happen is that we're going to sell off the existing inventory. And then that's going to spur, you're going to have to start building because people want to be here and we don't have existing inventory. Once that construction revs up, comps are going to be, Mr. Richardson can tell you this, comps are going to move from what is something selling for today to what is something built for today. And so when that jumps, it's going to help our tax base and help us with our abilities to fund new schools and those types of things. So I think that the positive results of these things are getting ready to hit the table. Next slide. So to that end, since I bought the golf course property, the old King Carter Cobb property, I've been trying to figure out what the adaptive reuse for that property is. And been going round and round and round, and there's a book out there called The One Big Thing, and it basically says if you could do one thing to do whatever it is you want to do, what is it? And I gave that a lot of thought. And at the end of the day, I said, I think the best thing we could do is to build a trail that connects the 3 towns together. Because I think when these millennials and others are sitting in these urban areas and they say, well, what are we going to do this weekend, honey? They say, hey, there's this cool trail down there in Irvington. We should go down there. It's not an athletic event. It's only a few miles. We can go down there. We can do this trail. We can have a great experience. Because one of the problems in building this economy is that we don't have a lot of rooms here for people to spend the night. We got to start off as a tourism location. You got to get people here before you can upsell them. So I think the tourism is really the base economy that's the first tier we need to be looking at. And I think the trail does that. What it does, it connects the 3 towns so that it makes this a unified tourism, plays to the cards we're holding. And it nourishes existing businesses and it platforms for new growth. It's consistent with what the Tides Inn wants to do. You know, it's a quality of life experience. It plays into what the Pattersons will be right there on the trail. It's got a lot of benefits, we think. Next slide. So in total, it will be a 9.5-mile trail. You got the leg going to Irvington and a leg going off to Whitestone. Let's go to the next slide. So this is sort of where the trail is. So we'll come out of Kilmarnock, we'll go down by the hospital, then it will cross over into my property at the Golden Eagle, at my property, from my property to go to the old Golden Eagle, and then it will wind on down to Irving. The Tides Inn is fully on board, says that they can come through there. I have reasons to believe that I know most of the property owners on this trail. To get from Kilmarnock to Irvington, is essentially a fait accompli, I think. There are one or two sites in there that I haven't talked to the owners yet, but I think, I feel pretty comfortable we're gonna get these rights of ways worked out. And then the first phase will be, we got a $135,000 grant last week, I'm pleased to announce, from the Virginia Outdoor Foundation to fuel this research. So now we're really, with that money, the trigger for that money is that I had to give them a definitive right-of-way in order to release those funds. So I'm gonna put a right-of-way across my property. They agreed, they said, Jimmy, if you'll give us that right-of-way across your property, we'll fund the trail, the planning grant. So I'm gonna lay down, over the next few months, we're gonna lay down the right-of-way and give the rights. We'll probably deed, Don, we'll probably deed the rights we'll probably deed it to the county under open easement, and then you all can be the recipients for the grants. I mean, for the whole title to the rights of ways. We'll work that out with Jimmy Cornwall and get that worked out. So I'm really enthusiastic. You know, no one wants to bike on the roads. No one wants to put their kids out there. When I was 44 years old, I biked across America. I can speak with authority in terms of, until you've seen me in biking gear, you haven't seen anything. You can imagine me sashaying into a little bar in Texas while we're biking. It took us 44 days, and, you know. So, you know, the trail's gonna be a safe environment. Let's go to the next slide there, Glenn. So it's going to appeal not only to retirees who live here in terms of improving their health, but it's going to appeal to families and visitors. Next slide. So, you know, we think we need to really, you know, create things like if they come down here, give them something cool to rent so they can go out and experience the trail. Next slide. Electric scooters and bikes have become the big thing. Personally, I'd like to see the path be golf cart friendly, because Irvington wants to be a golf cart community. Hills Quarter saying they'd like to be a golf cart community. We're still trying to work out legally what the ramifications are of putting golf carts and joggers and walkers on the same path. So we haven't tied that down yet, but I think at a minimum, we could do the electric scooters and bikes, because I think there's a large part of the population that says, well, I just want to come down there, but I really don't want to get sweaty. You know, what can I do? If I come down there for the weekend and have a drink, or not a drink, I don't want to say a drink and do this, but they would say, if I can come down there and not have to get, for those who are not physically fit, I want to appeal to as many market segments as we can. Next slide. But we will appeal to the healthy. I can see us, we're thinking about trying to put the fitness places along the trail where people could stop and do exercises. Next one. And the really cool thing that we're talking about is trying to figure out how we make this into a public arch trail. We think that will differentiate us from others. Since it's not a long trail, it's not going to be a fitness trail per se. It will be fitness, but we think if we can make it a really attractive venue for people to come down and say, oh, cool, we can go down there and see art. We can go along the trail, and we just think that adds a new dimension. Oh, and so we're going to be looking for grants for public art from the humanities and those places. And we think we've got a very compelling story to go. The basic format for funding the trail is that this falls under the Rails to Trail federal program. The consultant that I've engaged, that I've been paying for so far out of pocket, I'll be glad to get this grant money in, is worked for the Rails to Trail program. And the basic formula is that the feds will pay 80% of the cost of building the trail. My hope is that with the contributions of the rights of ways, and on my property, I'm giving, you know, paved cart trails, I'm giving the bridging. I think the hope is that when we take the value of the rights of way, Di, we're going to need you to really bump these values up. that the gifts hopefully will close that gap down on the 20% local match. That my hope is that we'll get a substantial part of that value to close the delta between the 80% that the feds will pay and then the 20% match that's needed. I'm trying to stay away from the county because I don't want to hit on the county, because the county's got enough economic problems trying to build schools and things. So we're really trying to, I'm not saying I won't come to the county to ask for something, but we're really trying to do this off page to see what we can do. Next slide. So again, fitness, art, trail, connect the three towns, and nourish existing business, platform growth. That's pretty much the idea. I know I've taken up a lot of time, but I thought that more than just talk about the trail, I sort of had to talk about the economy because I think that tees up the reason why we want the trail. It's a differentiating piece of infrastructure that adds on to what the Tides is doing, what the Patterson's doing. It really continues this differentiation of us to really make us the predominant marker in Eastern Virginia. I just think that that the combination of broadband technology that Charlotte's working on and others, this whole work from home movement, the whole social unrest. I mean, Washington is our primary market. I think that the problems facing them and people, I think there's an exodus afloat. We don't need a giant amount of people moving down here to change our economy. We just need to be identified as in that very narrow piece of the pie where people are looking for rural, authentic living. We just need to be able to say we're the best in breed in Eastern Virginia if you're looking for an authentic lifestyle, and here's why. And I think we've got a compelling case. I'm really enthusiastic about what's getting ready to happen. I think the trail is going to be another layer on that. So with that, I'll close down and answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Jimmy. That was a great presentation.
Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that was a remarkable presentation. I
Thank
can
you,
tell you
Bob.
spent a lot of time developing that. And you have a real vision there. Your exposition of the demographics, it is true. This county is like an undeveloped island in the midst of the growing megalopolis around us. And it's economically sound. I think it's not a big thing, you know, this small trail between these three small towns.
You think it's big when you see the estimates I'm getting.
But what it'll do, it'll tie that together and
Yes.
make it kind of one community. And many people, I think, might wind up commuting on this thing rather than taking a car. I am familiar with the rails to trails because I used to donate to that.
Good.
And I know the Leesburg, the railroad that ran out to Leesburg, that revitalized that area. In
Right.
fact, that's where they put several large corporate headquarters along that trail because they found that the employees really loved that trail.
We looked at several trails. There's a trail out in the western part of the state. I'm trying to remember the name. Anyway, where these trails, you're right, Bob, where these trails have gone in, everywhere that we've done our research says that there have been significant profit centers in terms of spurring new growth and bringing tourism. Your summation of it is right on. Well, good.
Are you getting $1 million a mile estimate?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad, but it's, you know, having built a lot of roads in my business, I mean, it's nothing more, I'm saying, I'm hearing these preliminary estimates from consultants, and I'm saying, look, this is nothing more than building a driveway in a sense, you know. I think you all's numbers are way off base. I mean, you know, I'm trying to shop this thing local, so I'm hoping we'll be using the local contractors and local engineers. We're gonna put it out for RFP, obviously, but it's, I think we're gonna drive the price down from what I'm hearing, Tom, and I don't know, I'm not gonna venture into what it might cost yet until we get further, but the planning money that we're getting right now will be able to fuel that research that's needed and help with the legal to start assembling the rights of ways. So the use of these funds is really just to keep an eye on the end game. What is it the feds want from us in order to fund us? And we're just working to that metrics. And so, good.
Excellent. Yeah, good
And
plan.
it plays with our comprehensive plan that we're working with, so
Right.
we're really excited about it, Jim.
So I'll be back next month when we get into that chapter with some comments, but I'll be here tonight for a couple of comments on the chapter you're working on tonight. I appreciate your attention and look forward to working with you and appreciate any advocacy you all can provide. I know you all. I think universally everybody I've talked to feels like this is going to be a good thing. I'm very pleased with the way it's going. Don's been terrific. Brian's been terrific. Everybody's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. All All right, I expect the same kind of presentation from the capital improvement budget request.
Yeah, I helped Don get the PowerPoint together last week, so it should be good. For your next item is the Chapter 5 hearing. You guys reviewed this at your last meeting, January 21st, 2021. We discussed it at length through a bit of 2020, but due to other business and some of the COVID delays we had in the middle of the summer, it took us a while to get around to this. So I don't need to add much comment to it. We've gone through it several times. Glenn, could you, if you don't mind, turning those lights back on here? Thanks. If you guys have any questions, the draft you have tonight for hearing is the same exact draft you had last month. There's some revisions that were made to Chapter 6 that you'll see next month, but Chapter 5 comes to you exactly as you reviewed it last month.
Before we open to public hearing, does anyone have anything they'd like to add or questions for Brian? Dave?
Nothing.
Nothing, Tom? Okay.
God, I went from it, I've got a couple of comments on it.
Yeah.
And I believe Charlotte Silverman will possibly, and then we'll check, once you're done with everybody in here, Glenn and I'll check online.
All right, so then I can read the statement then. Okay. At this time, I'd like to open up the conversation for the update to the Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 5. If anyone has any comments, please come forward, state your name for the record, and your district, please.
Good. Jimmy Carter, cheesy peasy, what district am I? I'm over, I forget what district I'm in now. Sorry, I'm over on the Cartome and down in Black Stump Road.
That's good enough.
Okay, good, thanks. First, let me say, I think this section is well written. The only thing I've got is just a couple of general comments. I think that something that's missing in there that maybe should be highlighted is that one of the really big things about Lancaster County when you start talking about waterfront development was the decision years ago, I think we go back, it was probably when Betty Barrack was chairman of the Board of Supervisors.
You can take your mask off.
I'm sorry. We went to a 2-acre subdivision minimum site in Lancaster County. I think that's important because that really changed the environmental impacts on the water. When you've got to have a 2-acre site with an average of 175 feet on the water, that's the right code, isn't it? 175?
180.
180? Then you know, that's different than the other counties around us. I think we need to point out in there that Lancaster County's already stepped up and done something really important in terms of protecting the waterfront by making our waterfront use so expansive. That's totally different than the other counties that I'm aware of, and I think it's worth highlighting the social responsibility that we've already put into play. So I'll let you figure out where to inject that, but I think it is a point that needs to be made. You know, when we talk about waterfront development, obviously, as Ty well knows, you know, there are only a couple of sites left. Most of the big sites have been eaten up, and I agree with the way the code tees it up to say that those developments need to have some type of waterfront access, you know, built into it. That language is all good. I think maybe somewhere in there we really need to talk about maybe to say how important residential tax base is to the future of this county in terms of being able to afford the types of infrastructure issues that are facing the community, that we value the resource, and that the 2-acre actually paves the way for a more expensive waterfront home, and therefore the waterfront home is important to us because a high percentage or a considerable amount of those buyers don't live here. So we're getting the tax revenue, but we're not having to provide them schools and the other big ticket items that we're having. So I think maybe that gets woven in there. I had notes in here to talk about the Good Luck Road site because I didn't see it in the early mentions, but it did come in a lot in the end. There may be some places, Brian, to look at where maybe that needs to be put in some, when you start talking about the multiple sites. I don't think it was in the early part of that conversation. And then there was mention in the back in terms of action items about buying some of the sites. I think that we also need to focus on. There are a couple of sites in the county, I won't name the one I'm really thinking about. Let's just say it's in the Irvington area, that possibly there are some sites that do have, we believe have some environmental degradation aspects to them. And I think when we start thinking about the types of sites that we need to buy, I think we need to think about highlighting those sites also, just as an environmental offset. So they're my comments, and I think it's a very well-written statement, and my hat's off to staff in the committee for the excellence of how it's worded. Thank you.
Great input, Jimmy, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Silverman. I'm District 1. So I'm out by Belle Isle and Maradika. And so my comments is a little bit about that particular area. I noticed that obviously Belle Isle is mentioning within this document. However, I think there's a lot of additional development that can be made at Belle Isle. In one part of this document, it mentions that Belle Isle doesn't really have a swimming area, or that they were thinking of developing a swimming area away from the waterfront. I think there is an opportunity to really take advantage of the swimming area that does exist at Belle Isle and further develop that to be more of a beach area. It talks about the fact that the only public beach is out by Windmill Point, and I guess I don't really understand why that is if you're not counting what is available at Belle Isle. Belle Isle is currently is not managed as well as it could be, and I think there is an opportunity to take advantage of that area a lot more. So that's one thing. The other thing I also wanted to kind of piggyback on what Jimmy was saying here about the Good Luck Road property, and that could really be a further development. And the other thing I want to mention also is the fact that I think I'm glad the county's taken this initiative and really look at these opportunities and where we can improve the water access, because it is so important. And it is also, to piggyback on what Jimmy was saying about the economic development, this is why people want to come here. This is why I am here. I'm here because of water access, because, proximity both to the Rappahannock River and also to Chesapeake Bay. So we really need to do something about this. And Belle Isle is a missed opportunity, and I think we can take advantage of that a lot more than what we currently have. So thank you very much for this, and thank you for putting together a very nice document.
Input. Thank you very much for your input. Anyone else?
I think that's an excellent point on Belle Island. I've wondered for years why they have that apparently beautiful beach there with all these signs, no swimming. It's never made any sense to me. And I would think maybe the county could encourage the development of that as a swimming opportunity. It would be perfect. It's not centrally located, but you can't have everything.
Take what you can get, right? Thank you, Dave. No one else has any more? I'd like to, before I close the public hearing, do we have anyone participating electronically?
We don't have anybody with their hands raised at this time.
All right.
Yes, we do too. So Mr. Costello would like to weigh in.
Charlie.
Hey, Tom. what happened to
Hello.
this?
I think that's just for presentation.
All right, Charlie, we can hear you. Can you state your name and district, please?
Charlie Costello, District 2. Good evening, y'all.
Good evening. Where is he? I can't see him.
I can see you. I don't think you can see me. You
Yeah,
could, though.
I thought we could see him.
The
here.
camera's on, but there you go. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Jimmy. That's Bill Lee. Hello, Bill. This thing was very good. I really like that. Tell him he has to go back and look at some of his slides, though.
He can hear you.
It's Triway Trail, not Triway Trial.
You had some misspell
Oh,
Number of times.
thanks, Charlie.
But it's you did a great job. I certainly appreciate what you said. And about the waterfront, that's there, and it's going to be in chapter 7 when you talk about that. But on this, I support all of it. Dave Chepp just mentioned about the beach up there. And I would think it may be having something to do with liability and having to be sure it's safe and nobody gets hurt, etc. When you have a beach and you become responsible for the area, maybe something you gotta look at. So it's not just so much your own risk. The rest of the thing, I think the chapter ought to be approved the way it is and move on. Thank you very much. And Bill, I'll see you next week in person.
Thank you, Charlie. I don't know if I'm getting live feed. Have we had anyone else join?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, Bill, we can hear you.
Okay, just a couple comments. When Jimmy was talking about the waterfront and the 2 acres and way back, there was I think some very big mistakes made back there. I don't want to condemn everybody that took part in it, but we missed a lot of opportunity when it comes to access to the water. You know, the county didn't think about this whole segment of population that not going to build $1 million homes or $500,000 homes on the water, but yet they want to have access to the water. So we're kind of scrambling around now to find places that this group of people that we have in this county that work and support us can get access to the water. So while that was all good and fine, like the 2 acres and all that kind of thing, we missed some opportunities back then. And now we are paying the price for it because a lot of these places don't want people in that subdivision or neighborhood or anything else. Yeah. So we missed some opportunities and we just, faced the fact that we did, and we're trying to make up ground for it now. And Brian can tell you, it's not easy. We've been kind of looking at this thing for several months on places to get access and put a fishing pier, things like that. So it's not easy. And on Belle Isle, Charlie kind of touched on it, and Don and Brian probably need to do some research. That's a state park, and it's not run by the county. So I think it's probably some lines there that I don't know whether we can cross or not, but I think that's the difference. If it was county property, we probably could step in and do some things, but that is a state park up there. So I don't know if Don got any ideas on that or not, but I think that's the difference. Why, the county probably hands are kind of tied on what we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anyone else have anything to add? I don't see anyone on this end. Are we good? Okay. We will close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Oh, okay. I know somebody else. I don't want to shoot anybody out there.
Hi, may I make one statement?
Yes, sir. I was gonna say, what,
Yes.
does any other members have anything to add?
Oh, thank you, yeah. This past week, I was in the office of Charles Pruitt, land surveyor, and he worked for a number of years on a commission to try to get access to the water. Bill Lee was talking then about missed opportunities and all that. And that was the general impression I got in talking with Charlie Pruitt too, that we didn't follow through on these things. He gave me a packet of materials about that thick, which has a lot of deeds and surveys and all that kind of stuff. And there are still 2 opportunities available there, which I think, might pursue. At least we ought to, some of us go down there and take a look at the properties and see, because the county has rights to the waterfront in those places. And I hope that we do follow through with that.
So what are these places?
One of them is down near, it's at the end of Boyce Camp Road, next to the Alexandria Police Department's property. And it's several acres on the water. It's not really deep, but I think, as we said, we don't want just boat launch ramps. What we want is a fishing pier and maybe kayak and canoe, and I'm sure it would be good for that purpose.
And the county owns this?
No.
I didn't read that deed, but I do know that we have rights to access there.
We'll look into that.
County don't know. Thank you,
And
Bob.
what's the other one, Bob?
Boy, I'm getting old. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I understand.
We'll let them look into it, but that would be interesting. I'd be also very interested to find out,
Yeah, I'll try
kind of
to
where they
touch
are.
base with you guys next week on that one.
But that's very nice. Thank you, Bob. Anybody else have anything they want to add to Brian?
No, sir. No, thank you.
Are you gonna amend, slightly amend? And if so, can we still forward this with favor with the,
If you do want an amendment, just maybe make a motion for amendment and then give me a little sentence or two on what you want that amendment to be, and then vote on that. I think that would be okay. If it's a small tweak from you guys to the board, I think that's okay.
Put
Correct.
whatever changes you want in your motion.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know of anything that you guys, do you want to, are you
No,
sure
just,
you
I
want
mean-
to tweak anything? Or?
what do you guys wanna do?
I think Jimmy made some good
Yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah,
I don't know that I can come up with language right now to
Exactly.
change it, but I think we ought to at least think about incorporating some of his thoughts.
I know Jimmy mentioned the importance, and I took a note there, importance of the residential tax base. I definitely agree. I think that if that doesn't find its way into chapter 5, certainly the other chapters
And then the fact that, the 2 acres.
circle back.
That was, as stewards, we didn't promote high-density development on the waterfront. I think that was a
Yeah.
very good point. as
Yeah.
well.
I agree, and believe it or not, I'd still get beat up over the 2-acre thing about once or twice a week. In fact, Charlie himself beat me up over it last week, in good nature. But my blanket answer, and you can appreciate this, my blanket response to that, because I've been to the Hamptons, I've been surfing in Southampton County, New York. What's the minimum lot size in the Hamptons? And if the minimum lot size in the Hamptons had been 20,000 square feet, would people like Beyonce, Jay-Z, you name it, have a house there? I doubt it.
Right.
The minimum lot size is something like 25 acres on the water.
Oh, my.
That's a minimum. And so you have these big, nice potato farms and stuff, even now. And then you have these huge mansions that are a who's who of some of the most famous people in America in a rural setting right on the ocean. And it's all because of those minimum lot sizes. So it's kind of neat. I think your statement was spot on with that. But Mr. Lee's also right in that had, back in those Betty Barrack days, had they had the intestinal fortitude to say, oh, by the way, if you're gonna do this waterfront development, how about you also put in a public boat ramp on this side? There's a lot of states that do that. You see that all over the place in Florida. Any creek you ride up and down in Florida, there's a public boat ramp every linear mile, easily. I mean, Volusia County is famous for that, so.
But you can't solicit a proffer. How would we request such a?
Yeah, well, I think having good comp plan language back then would have helped you guide what, that way people know what's gonna be approved.
Guide them in that direction.
Yep. These are the kind of things that are consistent with the comp plan and therefore find favorable consideration. You're not exactly telling people what the proffer's gonna be, but you do guide them to what's approvable. I think you guys have done that with your solar ordinance. You've shown them what your standard is gonna be for development. It's gonna be higher than a lot of other
Consistent with the
counties.
Comp plan, that's a good fallback position,
I think so.
to guide them in the right direction.
Anyway, you guys have spent a lot of time on it. I don't want to belabor the point, but it might be simpler now to close it the way it is. Just remember, you still have chapter 1 coming up and the other land use chapters still. So I think we have a chance. We're going to circle back towards waterfront access in those other chapters. Maybe that's the time to do those things.
I'm happy with it as is. You guys okay with it? Forward and on up? I get a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, we recommend to the Board of Supervisors the revisions as printed here for the chapter 5
Forward to with approval?
with approval. Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brian. Okay, consideration items, we're pushing chapter 6 back until next week, or excuse me, next month. For item number 5, number 6, capital improvement budget. We've got Don slumming us back down here with the planning commission. It's nice to see you again, my friend.
Yes, sir.
I just
Mr.
can't believe
Chairman.
it's that time of year again.
It is that time of year again, and as you know from last year, the Board of Supervisors has sped up their timetable for budget approval. They want to have their budget approved sooner than they have in the past. So whereas the Planning Commission used to take 3 months for capital improvement budget items, we now take only 2 months. So you'll hear it tonight for the first time. You'll hold a public hearing on it at your March meeting, and then it'll become part of the overall budget that the Board of Supervisors will adopt at the end of April if the timeline holds out. So it was about this time last, I think, Thursday night when I completed putting the packet together and sent it out to you by email before the snow hit last Friday. So during that time, Jeffrey Haywood let me know this evening that he had left out a few pages in the sheriff's office proposal. So I'm going to hand out a few pages for you to add, and this will go in after page 3 under the sheriff's office tab. And I'll let Jeffrey.
Thanks, Don.
I'll let Jeffrey explain when he comes up later. This will be page 4 under the sheriff's office. But just as a general overview, Code of Virginia requires that the Planning Commission review and recommend a capital improvement budget to the Board of Supervisors on an annual basis. This has been done since 2002 in Lancaster County, I believe it is. A capital improvement item is something that has a minimum cost of $10,000 and a minimum useful life expectancy of at least 5 years. Obviously, FY22 is the most critical in reviewing the capital improvement budget plan because the outer years will be reviewed again in years to come. If you would turn to your summary page in the booklets that I gave you, I think it's page 3 at the beginning, you'll see that the schools have basically the same requests that they have every year, a security grant request, matching funds, which they don't always get that security grant, but when they do, this is the maximum amount of matching funds that would be required. You'll see there some additional funds under the old library, convert that into an early childhood development facility. Just under that, you'll see school bus replacements. What they have asked for, and they'll expand on this as well, the $197,000 would have been under school bus replacements for FY22 for 2 buses. But because of the COVID situation that we've been in and the fact that they haven't had buses running up and down the road like normal, they would like to have that $197,000 moved from the school bus line to the old library conversion because I believe they found out that their proposed renovations are going to cost a little bit more than the $500,000 that they had approved last year. So they'll expand on that. Our EMS Chief Matt Smith is here. Last year, you were introduced to the P25 radio upgrade that is required by federal law. It's not required until FY25, I believe. Matt will expand on that a little more. Last year, the estimate was $1.1 million, and it's gone up a little bit, but what he's asking for in FY22 is some planning money. He'll explain that. You go down a little further, you'll see a sheriff's office building expansion for the dispatch room. This is not the same sheriff's office expansion that you've seen in the past. This is a completely different proposal. And our building official, Ernie Sadler, and Lieutenant now, Haywood, isn't that right, Jeffrey? They'll explain what that is. A little bit less money, different location, but there's some requirements coming down the road, state law and federal law that are probably going to necessitate this renovation. Just a couple of maintenance items there below that. The very last 2 items you'll see, replace county administration building roof. That's on this building. This building was built in the 1850s. I'm not sure when this slate roof was put on, but we've had many leaks over the past several years, and Ernie will explain that proposal. And the last proposal is replacing the HVAC system in the courthouse. I used to always call it the new courthouse. It's what, 11 years old now, so I'm gonna stop calling it the new courthouse. It's just the courthouse from this point on. So, but we've had some issues with the HVAC system in the courthouse, so Ernie will explain that as well. So you got a total request of $1.693 million for FY22. Not gonna get into the outer years a great deal. You can certainly ask questions if you like, but that's what you're mainly concerned with for FY22. So tonight is for you to ask questions, get a good understanding of what's being requested. I'll do like I did last year in between this meeting and the March meeting, send out an email. You all rank the items in your priority list, get that back to me, and then when you come for your public hearing in March, you'll know how everybody prioritized those items. So with that, I'll turn it back to you and ask you if you have any other questions of me, and if not, you can hear from the guys who have asked for items in this budget.
Thank you, Don. I certainly have no questions. I'm surprised that this is one of the easiest ones we've had in recent memory, to tell you the truth. Does anybody have anything for Don? Does anyone have any place they need to be as far as prioritizing? And in front of the TV doesn't count, Travis. Thank you. Well, the schools are on top of the list, so if no one has any other place to go, we'll start right there with the schools.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I wanted to discuss, we did realize that the $500,000 was not going to be sufficient, and we're hoping to partner and do some fundraising. But what we've learned, and I think Jimmy touched on, which was a great presentation, by the way, very exciting. Materials and cost of construction has gone up as well. We haven't really used the buses, so instead of coming to ask for more money and buying buses, we did some research, homework, and realized that we could probably just pull the 2 buses out of this rotation and, not have to ask for any more money. So really all we're asking for is to take those funds and shift it over and let us utilize it for the annex. Now, something exciting, I don't know if you've seen the paper, our maintenance crew has actually almost demoed the entire interior, so.
I did, I saw CD was in there.
Working hard. So we actually have, hopefully, we're hoping this week, but it may be next week, to have our construction drawings and our going out to bid for RFP. So it's pretty exciting. We had our kickoff meeting for our middle school renovation, and you've probably seen surveyors there if you've been out and about, and we're hoping to get that started very quickly. So some exciting things going on. So
And I know it's a stupid question, but we've worked so well with this replacement schedule with the buses. That's not going to give us a hiccup moving forward.
No, sir.
Okay.
We looked deeply into that to make sure we weren't going to mess up, and should we do 2 or 1, so.
So remember, that was a big thing for you, to keep them on the schedule. So.
And it just happens that it won't. And part of that was, over our
I mean, it
loss
makes
in a few
sense.
years, we were able to pull 1 route out anyway,
Yeah.
2 years ago, so it's not going to be a significant
Okay.
impact. We'll be good, so. And it's I think the right thing to do, instead of come up and just asking for more money on another side, so.
Well, as a taxpayer, I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
I think that makes good sense to move that money from the school bus appropriation schedule. It's important to stay on the 1 bus, 2 bus, 1 bus, 2 bus, but this year is something special with not having to run the buses. And it's a number of years since we bought that old library, and I think it's time to move on with remodeling it to do what we want to do with it.
It's actually pretty exciting. We have, I think, 7 classrooms we're going to be able to fit in there.
Good.
So it's good to see things going, and with Jimmy's presentation, it makes all that more exciting and kind of ties into hopefully where we're going. So.
It is exciting.
And I will tell you, we still have hopes of getting a project back to you maybe this year for the 7 through 12. We're still working on that. We moved it again to the outer years, but we're hoping to have that wrapped up soon. So
It's like eating an elephant.
we're doing our homework, so when someone asks the question, we can answer it.
And we appreciate that very much.
Yes, sir. Any questions? Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Okay, I guess, Matt, you would be next on the, if you're ready to go?
All right, so with everything going on this year with COVID, ended up just deciding to push the radio project back so we could have more time to actually devote and go over the project a little better. So what I'm proposing for this year is to just get $10,000 in order to push through hiring a consultant group between working with the state, and that way that'll give us a non-biased approach as to make sure what we have will work, and then also a grant writer. So that's all I have for this year. Everything else has been pushed back.
That's the big thing, is a grant writer to
Yes.
hopefully forego quite a bit of cost to the county.
Yes.
Okay. You guys have any questions for EMS?
No. Good.
Okay. I like it. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Okay, there are other items for EMS. Sheriff's Office building expansion. And
Good evening, how y'all doing?
terrific, how are you doing?
All right.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you. I don't, it's put a lot more work on me. I'm not sure if I'm happy about it or not. First off, I want to apologize for getting some of the material to you late. This project came about at the 11th hour when it was time to get the capital improvement stuff in. We're dealing with a 43-year-old building. We renovated the dispatch room back in 2010, stood in front of y'all and said, hey, we need to put in some new consoles, do some different things. We're growing a radio room. So I'm back in front of you again saying the same thing. I started off by trying to eliminate some of the wiring in there and clean things up. It looks basically like a rat's nest. So that got a little more expensive than I anticipated. Our consoles, which are 11 years old, that the dispatchers sit and use every day, are not becoming, they're not useful anymore. They're useful, but with the amount of screens and things that we have to have on them, we've just outgrown what an 11-year-old console was supposed to take care of. We're getting ready to move into text to 911. That requires a screen. It looks like a big fly if you take a look at it. And I welcome y'all to come down there anytime during the week, and I'll give you a tour of the radio room. It's about 10 by 12. During the storm this past Saturday, we had 4 dispatchers in there trying to work the calls we had. We had over 120 calls come in just on Saturday. And they were just climbing all over top of each other, just did not have enough room. So when I got looking at putting in new consoles, the consoles that are out there now are much bigger. The ones we have currently raised up, raised down, if the dispatchers want to stand up and work rather than sitting through a 12-hour shift. We were having to almost build and modify the consoles that were there, which was going to cost us more money because they would not fit in the room that we had. And we have to have 3 consoles. So came down here and I was basically venting to Ernie, and he said, well, let's try this. He said, since we got to do this and there's concerns about people in the public coming in, and when they come in to give money to inmates or bring clothes or get fingerprinted, what have you, they come in the lobby and walk right down through the administrative hall where the sheriff's doors open, the major, mine, the whole works. So we're exposed to the public. And the way things are now with anti-police and this kind of thing, it makes you kind of concerned when the public comes down. So the design, if you look at the floor plan, Ernie kind of sat down and came up with a floor plan, and we went over it. It adds to the front of the building on the Sallyport side. Roughly, it's the entire expansion is like 30 by 20, correct? Well, you drew it up. Come on up here.
You got 20 by 20 written on here, but that may not be exactly correct.
That's for the dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the size of the room is actually 32 by 41.
Okay.
And it's odd shape because what we're trying to do is take in account that there's a little step in the front of the building. We're trying to utilize that to come off of so we don't have a whole lot of kind of weird lines. Jeffrey come to me with the design of some of the new dispatchers stations that he had to have, and there was just no way to fit it in there where they're at. Adding the screen that they need, there's nowhere to put it. He calls me on a regular basis, and it's packed up. There's nowhere for the screen to go. So something's going to have to be done. What I tried to incorporate in this plan was what they stood before you last year to try and get was the offices and stuff that they need and the security to keep people from going down the hallways past their doors every day. So I tried to incorporate the two, get rid of the building that they needed but not completely, and add what they did need into what they currently need and make one building that made sense. So that's kind of what I tried to do for them. Basically, the dispatcher side of it is what they got to have now. And for the last couple of years, they've tried for the building. That's office space and some security that they need. COVID has really put a lot on them with people coming in and out. They can't have them coming by the sheriff's office, Jeffrey's office. So right now, the way it works is when somebody comes in and put money on an account, they have to walk down the hallway past everybody's office door. They stand at the dispatcher. There's a window there that they put in their money and that type of thing, and then they have to walk back out. It's not only a security risk, but it's bringing the COVID into the building as well. So this would take care of that. If you notice on the front, there'd be a separate door with a waiting area, and that would be wherever they would bring in any kind of materials that they need to give their inmates and also the money to put on their accounts.
Help me out here. Is the Sallyport right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
That stays right there, so it's coming
Yeah,
right
over to the
down.
left, yeah.
So, okay.
We are working on a better plan. It was kind of a very quick get it together thing.
So there's still access, but that access door that's going to be on the front of it is not for public use.
Well,
Is that right?
what we plan on using that for is if people come in the lobby and they have clothes for inmates, those kind of things, we will go out and meet them. They will not be coming through the building like they currently are.
Yeah, so it's
Exactly.
it's
And
not gonna be an ingress,
yeah,
egress for
and that first window you see on the left is gonna be a pay window where they can come in and stand there and bring in the money orders, cash, whatever it is for the inmates. So they're not coming through the administrative area.
Yeah, that small area is actually, and I apologize, I didn't have time to get all the measurements. It's a 10 by 10 area, and it's a closed-in box. When they open the door, basically, that's all they can go to.
That's
is
as
the
far as
paper.
it goes, so
Yes.
none of your employees have to go?
No.
There's still, there's a petition?
Yes, there's a separate door right beside that. If you look on the front, there's two doors beside each other. That would be a locked keypad door like they have now, so they would enter a key. So would Jeffrey or Patrick or any of the.
And what are you gonna use the current dispatch area?
Current dispatch area is gonna be made for corrections, which will expand the offices where the corrections officers are for inmate records, those type of things.
So that, the whole area back there that I can't see, that's still, public can't get from that side? into
No,
this.
no, they cannot.
And the biggest thing with the current dispatch is all of the computer systems are in there. It would add hundreds of thousands of dollars to move all of that. So I kind of had to incorporate it to keep those items where they are. All of the infrastructure of all of the 911 goes to that one tower that's kind of sitting in the middle of the dispatchers. So moving that got extremely expensive, and that's why I was trying to redesign things to put it on a location where we didn't have to move those items.
Y'all gonna use brick, I'm guessing, on everything, and just match or best? you
That is
can?
the plan, yes.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why, and again, I apologize for getting some of these estimates and stuff that came in for this total late, it was at the 11th hour, and I've got all these IT people that are trying to figure out, all right, what's it gonna cost me to run wires from the existing building to the new one? I've got the people with the radio and the telephone. I've got people with the jail doors. So it's like 3 different, and plus the console people moving the consoles and getting those in. So I've got like 4 different people that are gonna be involved with this move. So we're gonna have to do it, in steps. So they had to come out and look at what we were gonna do, sent the drawings to them. They came in and took a look at what we had now and what they could do. So that's why they were a little bit late getting these things in. So Don was nice enough to give me till the 11th. And I got it in, but some of them were still a little bit late getting their quotes in.
I just can't believe, in my job, all the clerk's offices are closed for the most part, and I still can't believe that people are just walking through y'all's offices. That's crazy.
Yep. And what we've done with putting this addition on the current office, I've estimated it's gonna save from what we'd asked for with building the new administrative building, roughly around $249,000.
Does it make sense in the long term for it?
I believe it does, yes. I mean, it's a 43-year-old building, but we're making use of what we're moving out of by expanding where the jail officers are, giving them more room for records and things, which we have to keep now, more and more. Of course, it's on computers. Computers were supposed to have gotten rid of paper, but I think it's produced even more. So it's really gonna help us. The sheriff will have access to his office and not have to go through the public. If he wants that door on the right, that office to the right, that will be his office.
Figured it was, because it's the biggest one with the private bathroom.
There you go, exactly. And our communications supervisor, she'll have an office right there off of the dispatch room. She has a lot of paperwork to do with VCIN, which is the Virginia Crime Information Network, people that we run license plates and those kind of things. We have to do audits, checks on wanted people. So she has a lot of paperwork, and all that's cluttered up in the dispatch room right now as well. So we're trying to give her a little more space to breathe. But when we moved from the old one and renovated, that's taken us 11 years. Hopefully, we've planned for this one to maybe take us 15 to 20 years.
That was my next question. Because it is big enough,
Yes.
Jeffrey, isn't there a change in the law coming up to where a dispatcher has to know, isn't it some life-saving?
Starting in 2022, all dispatch offices, they call them PSAPs, will be required dispatchers to do EMD, which is emergency dispatch. In other words, if you call in and you're having a heart attack, and your wife is the one calling in, they're all gonna be trained to do CPR, give first aid advice with flip charts, over the phone. So at the current time, we have one dispatcher at nighttime sometimes. Well, if she's doing EMD, she can't very well put that person on hold to answer somebody else's call. So it's gonna require us to have at least two there at all time, if not more. So with that being said, we do need to expand that room, because it's just not enough room. Like I said, with 4 people in there on Saturday, they were all over top each other trying to answer these calls and do the things they need to do. So we're trying to expand it now to keep up with the changing laws and different things that we're being faced with, and hopefully this will, what we planned on is moving into the future with this.
Quick question, you don't see anything changing as far as where we are right now with future, because the government's always slow to move around. Oh, sorry. As far as what my question is, Jeffrey, do you see anything potentially in the future where the government catches up with this pandemic and say, we start on this project and they say, whoa, 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 it's not big enough. We need more infrastructure. We need more glass. These, the callers have to be so many feet apart. I mean, do you see that happening? And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but.
No, with the diagram, if you look at the dispatch, there's a little island kind of in between them, and that gives them space to do paperwork and so forth. But the way these consoles are going to be spaced, they're going to have more than 6 feet apart.
Okay, that was my question, because
Yeah.
you get in there and all of a sudden they say, you've got to be.
And we work with Russ Bassett, who is one of the top designers they've done numerous projects in Virginia. And we worked with them. They're the ones that have the insight into what the future is doing and those kind of things. Were really helpful with drawing up this room and helping out with these consoles. So based with what they told us and what our needs were is how we came up with this design.
Okay. You guys have anything you want to ask?
No, it's been, I'm not sure if I've ever been in that office, so I would like to take a tour.
Absolutely. Come on, I'm there
When's a
Monday.
convenient time?
I'm there Monday through Thursday. I work 4/10, so anytime you want to come to, or I don't have to be there. Just, tell them who you are and you'd like to come in there. Not a problem.
Very good.
You've been on the other side of the wall, haven't you?
Don't know that I've got his mugshot, but
It was, even when we went, but that's probably the last time I went back there to see before your last time, it was cramped back then.
yeah.
And, anyway. You guys have anything you'd like to add about that?
Looks good to me.
Yeah, and with the COVID thing, it's been kind of tough too, because we take each other's temperatures before you enter to come into work. You get your temperature taken and those kind of things. But working in a crowded room, you got your jail officers in there and you got your dispatch people in there, and it's crowded. It was some.
Didn't when you tell me you're throwing members of the public in there,
Well, they come into the hallway. They don't exactly have access to that room because we can't allow people in that room.
But still coming by your office.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy, really.
Yep.
I see how you did this. You put the big ticket item up top, so the other ones are.
Yeah, the next one, of course, we're going to rotate another vehicle again. The Ford Explorers have worked really well for us. In the little bit of inclement weather we've had, we haven't had to switch out cars. Everybody got where they need to go. They were able, with the amount of equipment we have to carry now, they're not having a problem with cramming a bunch of stuff in there. The guys are real happy with the Explorers.
Funny, two of you patrolmen were out front when we came in this afternoon, and I asked them about the cars. You say maybe like the inclement weather, but look how muddy everything is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, they can go where cars can't go.
I mean, basically since September, it's been a swamp around here.
But they come and they're very happy with them, so.
Yep, and of course, just rotating out the AC units. That's a constant thing, trying to keep ahead of those with maintenance issues. So,
is that the office or the jail?
That would be for the jail. And right now, the jail ones are the ones we're rotating at, but we do rotate out the ones that work administration as well.
And the vehicle replacement is working well, kind of like with the bus schedule?
Yes, the sheriff puts I believe 1 or 2 in his budget.
I
think it's one in
yeah.
each budget.
Right, yep. And that way we can rotate them out and keep ahead of maintenance problems and those type of things.
I was gonna say, is it helping with maintenance?
Absolutely. Those, we haven't had nearly the maintenance issues we had with those Chargers.
Okay.
Jeffrey, I didn't see any estimate or documentation in here for the electrical panel replacement for the generator. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Paul Ryan, I tried to get him some, and that's, what did I have that for, 20?
No, 2022.
2022.
Okay, yeah, that's for, Paul Ryan obviously got busy with generator maintenance and those kind of things, but when I talked with him about what our generator that we currently have there, was there enough space to carry the new dispatch? And what he told me, he said, I would like to see a new panel box put in that covered the current panel box. Again, the building's in 1978, and that's the original panel box. So he talked about possibly going up with some sub panels and those kind of things. He apologized because with maintenance on generators and the storm catching him, he could not get me the quote I needed. He gave me that figure roughly off the top of his head, but I will get a better figure from him and come back at the next meeting with that.
I'm not sure that that's necessary, because now that I'm looking at what you gave me, you had that in 23, and I put it in
I thought I had it in 23.
Yeah, I put it in 22 by mistake, so
Yeah,
that's my fault.
That's why I didn't rush him a whole lot,
Yeah,
because you
okay.
said, well, it's 23, so we
Yeah.
don't really need, so.
Okay. We'll move that over.
Okay.
So,
I
yeah.
would take a look at that. To me, $70,000 for an electrical panel.
Well, it's a little bit more than the panel, it's the labor, it's more labor intense, in replacing a panel, because you have to put the old panel, the new panel up and then transfer things over to that panel and shut things down, so it's rather labor intensive, more than it is material. Am I correct, Ernie?
All right.
$70,000 worth of labor? Yeah.
Well, again, this was a figure when I told him what we were doing, and he said, I'm not sure how many days it would be. He said, I'm trying to give you a figure maybe on the high side, but I can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in 23.
Yeah.
We'll just move it out to 23, and you can work on that.
Yeah, and
for
I'll
next year.
definitely have a better figure. I was just throwing it in there because we are gonna be needing that.
I just, I didn't pick up on the, I thought it was 22, but it is 23 on.
That's when you said 22, I'm like,
Yeah.
I did?
Anybody have anything else for Lieutenant Haywood? Yes, sir.
I noticed with that movement, we're really only prioritizing 8 items, and I feel comfortable with all of them except replace HVAC system in the courthouse. Can anybody speak and give us more information on that?
Yeah, Ernie's gonna talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay, good.
If y'all done
Anybody
me, I'll
have
let
anything
him.
else for- You good?
Thank you.
Okay, and again, please come down and we'll give you a tour of the dispatch room and a little bit of what we do down there and what we're dealing with right now, so feel free to come down.
I'll give you a call. Yep. Yeah, it's worth it. I'll ride with you if you like. Thanks, Jeffrey. Okay, next item, we've got replace county administrative building roof. Don, you sort of alluded to it, Ernie.
All right, I have 2 items on here. I'm gonna go with the cheap one first. We recently found out.
Reverse Jeffrey strategy.
Yeah, I'm gonna reverse him. So we recently found out a few months ago that we were having an issue with the slate roof here. And come to find out that the chemicals in the slate over the years have acted against the copper valleys that are in the roof. We've got large holes that are being eaten out in the copper valleys amongst some of the slate that's coming loose that's could fly off the building at any point. To pull the shingles off that would need to come off to change the valley would cost us probably 3 times as much than it would be to take the whole thing off and put a new roof on. The slate is extremely, 1, hard to get, and 2, it's very time consuming to try and repair. The way it comes off and the way it has to go back on is virtually impossible to do. I had several roofers come out and look at it, and they just basically told me we got to do a new roof. The reason that the costs are up and higher than what you normally see with a roof replacement is because slate is so heavy. It's very labor intense to get it off. One of the items that I looked at doing, there was 2 quotes on this. If you open the quote there's a 114.9 167 is, which is a standard asphalt shingle. Of course, I did do the raised shingle. It's not the 3-tab. The 161-817, I tried to match the look that we have. It is an asphalt shingle, but it's trying to match that slate look. The age of the building and the type of shingles that's on it, I was trying to keep that look in place. So they were the two options. I wanted to be able to give you guys that option. Once you take those off and put a regular raised tab shingle on there, you've taken the look of the building that is 1800s to a newer style. So that was why I wanted that option. Any questions on that one?
Did you talk to people at Historic Christ Church about their roof replacement several years ago?
No.
Because they may have some insight on how to just repair what is there, or have some contacts for you to talk to about that. Because it would be a shame to lose that slate roof. I know it's, I hear what you're saying, but they replaced their whole roof, of course, with a lot of cost. But they may be able to point you in the right direction to get a professional that deals with slate opinion.
One of the contractor that actually gave me the quote does deal with slate. He does repair it. The problem is we've got so many areas throughout the whole roof, and of course we've got flat roofs that are integrated with the slate roof, and we've got peaks, and then in the mix of those peaks, there's other flat roofs that come off of, and it's just the way that the roof is designed. It really gets into a position where it's cheaper to replace it than it is to go in and try and repair it. We've got areas all over the building that we're having issues with.
But to confirm, Ernie, what you said, just for the record, the big number is for slate.
It's not slate. It's an asphalt shingle that is made to look like slate.
What's the warranty on that one?
It's 45 years on the top line is what I'm being told, and the other one is a 35-year shingle.
Is there any way to get a example of what you're talking about?
Yes. There again, with COVID, I've had a hard time getting him in here with all the damage. He did come in and get my numbers. I got those 2 days before Don was actually making the books. We've just had a terrible time getting contractors to come in because everybody's so busy right now. He is going to bring me a sample of both types of shingles. There will be a large board, so you'd be able to see both.
I think that'd be very helpful.
Are many of those slate shingles original from 1850?
Now that I'm not sure of when they were put on. They are true slate. A lot of the slate that you see today is not true slate. It's actually rubber. So it looks a lot like our roof, but they're rubber products. This is true slate and very heavy.
Well, when they redid the Naval Academy Chapel Dome, it was copper.
Mm-hmm.
And they took that copper and they cut it up into little pieces and they engraved it, and you could buy these as souvenirs. I think that the slate on this old admin building, antebellum, has some historical value. And, maybe we could advertise, people can come and get a piece of this slate or something like that.
Very well, yes.
I think, it has some
It's a
value.
cool idea, Bob.
Yeah, I'd be glad to look into that.
Sure.
Any other questions on the roof?
Would you be signing them?
Sorry?
Would you be signing them?
Sure, I'll sign it. For what that's worth.
That's a great idea. You guys have any other questions on the roof? I think we need to see samples of it, but.
No, but I would favor the character shingle on a roof this age.
Yeah, without a
building
doubt.
this.
Well, I knew it was going to be more expensive. That's why I wanted to provide both quotes. Just one to give you a comparison of what a regular standard shingle is going to be compared to something that would give you the similar look to what you have now. Because I knew that was going to be a question, so that's why I went on and did it that way. I agree with you totally, and that was the reason that I looked into it, and we went with that quote, and that was why I put that quote in here.
You don't think there's any historical value to try to keep it the same, just for tourism or for history's sake, or?
That would be up to you guys and the board. Having somebody to come in and get a price on repairing the roof, I've talked to 2 other contractors other than this contractor that I used. The reason I use him, he's done several building for us. He did social services. He's done the jail. He did the detective's office. He does a very nice job, and he does deal with slate quite regularly. He wouldn't even give me a quote on it. He said, I'll repair it, but it's all time material. And he said, I can't give you any ideas of what it would cost. Because he said, I can go in there to do one valley and it could take me 2 weeks or it could take me 2 months. It just depends on how things come off. There are holes drilled into the slate and then there's roofing nails put in it. He says, most of the time when you try to get those off, the slates break and then you got to try on one fine slate, true slate. And then a lot of times you end up with a metal clip. There is a few on this little side of the building right here where some of the shingles had come up, and it's like a metal clip that goes up underneath there. So you see this metal edge all the way down the slate, and it looks terrible. And he said, there is a possibility we would end up with a lot of that as well. Any other questions on the roof?
No, that was your easy one. That
was my easy one. So I come here in 2016. In that point, we were hiring a carrier to come out of Richmond to work on the HVAC. It's very expensive. Give you a little bit of background on the way the HVAC is designed over there. I know it's getting late, so I'll cut it as short as I can. Basically, the way that HVAC system works is there's one huge outdoor unit, there's one huge blower unit. So anytime that we have a fault in either one of those pieces, the whole building is down for usually weeks. The parts for those, most of the time we've had to have made. The last one I flew in from Arizona. That was this summer where they were out, Don, 2 days or 3 days. I had the next day in a fan motor. All it was a simple fan motor. I had the next day in from Arizona. And of course, they get fussing because they're out. But the way it's designed is there's one huge unit. It blows into a big duct system, and then there's just dampers in there that cut it on and off. The second note to it is even now, on a regular basis during the wintertime, we're running air conditioning. There is no heat pump to it. So we run air conditioning to cool the rooms that need cooling, and then we heat the air-conditioned air to the rooms that need heating. So it's super inefficient. With that said, we're looking at going to, it's called a variable refrigerant system. Basically what it would do is it would take heat out of one room and transfer that into a room that needs the heat. It would take the heat out of the room that needs cooling and transfer it into the room that needs the cooling. With that being, doing it that way, it doesn't run the HVAC system as much. It's just a transfer of the Freon gases to accomplish that. The cost savings on it per month right now, our current bill on average is around $5,300 a month just for the courthouse. That's what our current bill runs over there. We had engineers. All of this was designed by a group of engineers. Of course, they did it all for us for free, and of course, they told us they would come in next meeting and do a presentation on it. Wasn't able to get that set up for tonight. But the cost savings on this is about 33 to 35% in our current bill to go to this new system. So over the years, about 10 years, you would pay the system back. Also, anytime that a room is down, it would just be that room. So if, say, the General District's clerk's office had a fan motor problem, it would only be their office. It wouldn't be the whole building. Where now, anytime that we have a problem on any of that unit, it shuts the whole building down.
Thank you. That explains what I wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah, it's been very complicated to keep that over there. And I know you guys have probably heard the complaints at times that, we're out of air conditioning or we're out of heat. It's just that when one part goes out, the whole building goes down. It's not like I can, turn and give this guy heat or air conditioning and, hey, y'all can move over here for the day. It's one part, the whole building's down. It's just very inefficient. It was not designed very good at all. I've been in heat and air conditioning since I was 15. And it's not a very good design.
We were happy the cost, pay for what you get.
Ernie, I have a question. What is the life expectancy for this new system?
So with a standard unit that we have there now, the life expectancy of any commercial unit is around 12 years. With these, the good part about it is one, the life expectancy is longer. Any of the ductless units now run between 15 and 20 years. And two, anytime you have, like I said, with a part, it's one component. These here are kind of what they would be. Little different. These here are what they call cassette units, so you actually see the grill. With those, they would replace what they call a VAV box. It's a small dampering box with electric heat in it, and they're hidden above the ceiling. and these units would replace those. So instead of going in and replacing a $1,200, I believe my fan motor was, that unit there cost us about $400. So, I mean, it's just so much, over the years, it's so much cheaper to operate and work on these units. Where now the parts are larger, they're harder to get, some of them have to be made just for us to be able to get them.
Thank you.
That just doesn't seem it's that old,
I know.
the new courthouse.
2010.
It's 2010. Yeah.
Tell me these engineers aren't the ones that designed the first system that you meet with.
Well, what happens with a lot of projects, especially with courthouses and that type of thing, is, you know, they're designed and they go out to the lowest bidder. So the design that was actually there was a little different than what actually got installed. How that happened, I don't know, but the design that's on the plan is a little different than what is actually there. And of course, at that time, they're not looking at current bills and that type thing. They're giving them what they want. They're asking for a certain size building with certain rooms in it, and they're giving them that, and they're putting whatever they can in.
Gotcha.
Most of the time, too, with commercial, I've done a lot of commercial over the years, it's a design build. They'll give you a CFM load for each room, but you have to design the unit to match what HVAC loads you have.
Any guarantee on the savings? If you don't get the savings, if you don't get the 33%?
There's no guarantee on it, but I can tell you, I've changed probably 75% of the units here, and we're going all to the mini splitters, which is the ductless. These are a little bit more efficient than the type of systems we're going to, because the variable refrigerant systems basically tie all of the mini splits together, so it will take the Freon from one and move it to the other one, where what we're doing here is we're doing one at a time, so they're self-contained units, and it's helped tremendously here. I see it in our oil bills and our electric bills on this building. We've changed probably about 75% here. If you look throughout the building, I know Glenn has one, Crystal has one, Don has one in his office. We just recently changed this right before the board meeting. They require no ducting, and they're point use. So this room can be a different temperature, where before Crystal would be running air conditioning and heat at the same time because it was so hot in there because of the boiler system. So not only is it a savings, it's the comfort as well.
Any other questions, guys?
Would you all want that presentation that Ernie was talking about from these folks at next month's meeting? Or
I think Ernie did a nice job of telling me what they're gonna speak Greek to me. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, that was kind of why I didn't go through. I mean, all of this paperwork back here explains the system. And of course, I understand it, but it's real hard when you don't deal with this on a daily basis. I mean, there's even pictures in there of how the boards work and that type of thing. I mean, that's not the information you guys need. You need to know numbers. And the biggest savings is the 33% on the current bill and the operation cost. I mean, the parts for them are tremendously cheaper. Like I say, with that little unit there, it's $400, where I just spent $1,200 for a fan motor.
Interesting.
Plus Arizona next day.
Right. Okay, Ernie, thank you, buddy. All right. Thank all you guys for your time. Appreciate it, everyone. And Don, you'll get this out for the ranking system just as normal?
yeah, I will. Yes, sir.
You are the man. Thank you. Any other new business, Brian?
No,
Anything coming across?
Scheduling you guys for a regular hearing, regular meeting, I'm sorry, in March.
Yeah, March 18th.
Yeah, pick up where you left off here. And, Don and I'll talk a little bit about your workload with the capital improvement budget, but, you may see chapter 6 in front of you, and I'll, like I said, I've made the corrections from the January meeting, but, if you want, we could pick up where you
All
left
this
off.
real estate activity, nothing coming across as far as zoning changes?
I'm getting almost daily questions about subdivisions and rezonings, but you just don't have any that are on the application desk right now.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of questions, but nothing.
Well, where there's smoke, there's usually fire to follow, I guess. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Thanks again for everybody coming out on this crappy night. Anything else? Tar, it's nice to have you back, that's for sure.
Yes.
Glad you're feeling better. All right, thanks, guys. This meeting is adjourned.
You and I have been through quite a bit since. Thank you. Yeah, I've had a new aortic valve put in